Today is February the 2nd, 2012, and it's our great privilege to be here with McGregor Smith, one of the founders of Narrow Ridge and Earth Ethics Institute. And the reason that we're here today is to try to capture and preserve the early history as well as what you know of the ongoing history of Narrow Ridge, as we're coming on our 20-year celebration of our second charter at Narrow Ridge. So I'm going to just open it up to begin with as how do you remember getting involved with Narrow Ridge to begin with, or introduced to Bill, or what is your recollection of that?
Well, I'm looking forward to this summer too. I think it's wonderful, the 20-year celebration. And it's really something to celebrate. I mean, there's no question about that, what has happened up there. I met Bill up at Lake Junaluska at the it's a Methodist retreat center. He was a Methodist pastor. And, but I didn't know him until at Miami-Dade, we were doing a lot of experiments with new curricula, and at that time we were doing. I have to think back. We published a book actually, On Your Own but Not Alone. No, that was the one we did with you. I'm trying to get the book straight. On Your Own but Not Alone was to document Life Lab, and that was the first experiment we did at Miami-Dade with new curricula. Okay, and we were doing all these experiments because this was a period of time when the Cold War was going on. There was a threat of nuclear holocaust, and it was a real threat. I mean, we knew that civilization actually could self-destruct and actually take our species with it. And that shook up a lot of people, including administrators at Miami-Dade and a lot of other colleges and universities. So anyway, they put me on a team that was to explore other ways of teaching and that would confront the issues that we were having in terms of the crisis and the violence and the stuff that was going on. And I was just incredibly lucky to get on this committee. And out of that came the first experiment, which was Life Lab. Okay, out of Life Lab came two books. One was documenting how Life Lab worked and how, and that book was written, half of it by the students, and then the other half by me. And so the book then became really valuable for within the groups that we were working with. And so we were spreading the word, so to speak. But then out of that also came another book. This book was called Living Sane, and it was subtitled, sounds pretty fancy, but A Planetary Guide to Environmental Ethics and Personal Fulfillment. But that was really it. And Living Sane was a series of little seminars that we put on at churches, we put them on at synagogues, we put them on at the college, and then I was putting them on at Lake Junaluska when they'd have the Prayer and Bible Conference. They've changed the name now to something else, but Danny Morris at that time was in charge of that, and he asked me to do Living Sane retreats at Lake Junaluska. So that's where I met Bill. He liked the idea of living sane. I mean, that caught his attention. So he came and sat in on this 1 week seminar. And then afterwards he came up and we had a lot of wonderful conversations. And one of them was he wanted to come to Miami and intern with us in Living Sane and use this material, but also he wanted to work with us in the Life Lab and the programs we were doing. So he did. He came down, and I don't know how many months, maybe 6 months, he actually lived there. And at that time we created a environmental demonstration center that was off the grid, that had everything we're talking about now. It had the composting toilets, it had the photovoltaics, it had, and so he came and lived with us for a while. And then out of that, I got to spend time with him up in North Carolina, and he'd already purchased some property. He had a log cabin he'd built himself. He had planned to do something, some kind of education, some kind of program like that up there, but it had never come off yet. And so I told him, you know, this is exactly what I was interested in, and what we were doing here, this is what he was trying to do there. So I said, I'll do anything that I can to, you know, help make this happen. And so he shared his dream. He shared how his dream had come out of, as a pastor, he had run programs for young people up in the mountains, and that had been very successful, that they were more conscious of nature and all, but it didn't go far enough for him. He wanted to go the all the stuff we were dealing with, which a lot of it was controversial, because we were saying, hey, the world we're living in is really insane, and we're living in a world that could collapse. And so so he took that serious, and that's how we started. That's how I met him, and how I began. After he went back up there, then I would go spend time with him, and he commuted. We had a good communication going.